once again. Yeah, good morning again, everyone, and welcome to today's class. Today we'll be continuing our topic on array and array method, which is what we started in our last class, and we'll be continuing from where we stopped. And today we'll be having a practically used case on how array method works, so that we would understand how we make use of them in real world scenarios, which is what we'll be working on today. And also, I want to put this disclaimer out there. I'm not the one who developed this design from scratch. I saw it somewhere, and I saw that it's going to be a very use case for us to learn. So I'm bringing it to this point. So for copyright issues, I'm not the one who developed this from scratch. I saw it somewhere, and we are bringing it to this class so that we can actually replicate it over from scratch. So this is what we are going to be doing. We will not be able to finish the application. It's called a bank application. So let me log out. Where's the log out button? Oh, sorry. This is what the person implemented on the live site. So we'll just be replicating it to fit just some one or two analogies from it. That is what we'll be picking out from the application to understand what arrays and arrays method does. So let me refresh the page and log out so that we can see how the application works. The app is just like our normal mini bank application, whereby you can log in and you see your transaction. So we are not. This is not a full application. It's just a dummy application where you can just use array method to convert something such as computing the usernames, transaction, and every other thing. So the reduce function when you are adding and every other thing we have done in the last class. So is there any question before I go into today's class? Does anyone have any question? Okay, Paul, go ahead. You have a question. Hand is raised.
Yes, thank you, sir. Good morning. The question I wanted to ask is that in the last class, you were telling us different kinds of arrays, and I think the one that you did, uh, um, I was actually on the video recorded video that you sent. I mean, you posted on YouTube. So, I don't know this example that you want to use. Are you going to send us a source code?
Yeah, I'm going to definitely, once I'm done with it, I always say I'm going to push the source code to my GitHub repository, and I'll post it for you guys to have it. Actually.
Okay, lastly, sir, our class rep Chinenye, the mother is hospitalized right now, so she's in the hospital. She said she can't.
She sent me a message. She sent me a message. I saw that.
All right.
Thank you. All right, so let's get into today's class. So what we have here is just like a dummy application. This is the main application whereby you can be all this was done with just arrays and array method, which is one thing we are going to use in today's class. So anything that concerns array, that is what we are going to make use of. So let's jump right into today's class. So the first thing we have here is we have our normal JavaScript file, we have our HTML file, which is this. And the reason why our application here is actually closed, for this is what we have. The reason why we can't see anything right is because we have an opacity set to 0. Let me open that right on our app right here. So let me go to our CSS and open it up so that this opacity. So once I save it, this is what we have. And from what we have on the application, from all these data that we have right here, all these movement, these are the transaction that the user has made. All this, Josephine, you're always doing this, writing on my screen. Please, I don't like it. Let me increase my screen. So is my screen visible enough? Hello, can anyone hear me?
It's okay.
All right. So all these transactions are what we are going to render on the screen. So let's start with that first of all. So the first thing we have done is we have actually rendered opened up our screen right here so that we can see what we have. And the first method I'll be showing you guys this morning is the for each method, which we used in the last class. So let's start that. You can also see that I have actually gotten the source code for everything we are going to be using on our HTML. Audio elements will be manipulating from our end. I've already gotten it right here, so I'll just be going right into writing the functionalities of what we have. So the first thing we want to do is to render. Let's check the application. The first thing we want to do right here is to render all these transactions that the user has made. We want to render all these transactions. So let's start with that. First of all, you can see that we don't have any transaction here. All these transactions that we have here is actually a dummy data from our HTML, and we have to overwrite that first of all with what we have in our HTML from what we have in our array of movement. What we have in our array of movement, because I told you in the last class that an object takes any kind of data type which involves either a string, an array, a number, a boolean, or any kind of data type. An object can take it. So that is what we have right here. Let me start. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is a const, and I'm going to do display transaction. So you just have to follow me. I'm just going to be using some keywords. I'm just going to be using some words that are similar to what we are doing. So I'll just use transactions. Please, in case you have any question, you can always you know how we do it. You just unmute and speak. You just raise up your hand and you unmute and speak. Transaction dot for each equals function. So now we are having a function. We're having a function inside another function, because a for each has to take in a two parameters, which is the start point and the index. We have we have money. Let me just use mon, something like this, and the index. This I stands for index, and we have this. Are you understanding what I'm doing? We have a const. Sorry, please, do you have any question? Paul, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Okay, the for each, when you say function, then you put the month. The ID is the index of the number in the arrays.
Yes.
Like let me say I have a table of 1, 2, 3, and that 1, 2, 3 is bank, month, and day. So that's mean the ID is representing each of the items in their different column and
Yes,
rows, right?
that is what it means.
Okay.
So I told you that we can actually write HTML in our JavaScript actually. So one thing we have to do now is, all this transaction up here, all this transaction of movements up here is what we are actually going to be displaying on the screen. So let's actually, we have a template. We have a template in our HTML, which is this. This is the template of what we are going to be rendering on the screen. This is the template. This is the template of what we'll be rendering on the screen right here. So I've copied that, and we are going to be using it in our HTML. So we just have, let's give this a const, a value of what should be the value name I should give it. What variable name should I give this const? So that we all can, I know that you guys are following with the class. Oh, sorry, I didn't use it. I don't worry, I'm going to explain the for each. That is why it's a use case. That's why it's a use case of it. So at any point you have a question, you can, at any point you are confused of the for each, I can always explain. Yeah, so I'll give this one a variable name so that we can always understand it. So let me give it index. Let me just give it HTML equals this. I'm going to use a backtick here because I can't use a square. I can't use a quote because we'll be writing an HTML inside. So I'm going to paste HTML content from our we are going to we are going to paste the HTML structure that we want to render on our screen inside our HTML right here. So what we are now going to do is, if you look at this transaction history, let me come here. If you look at this transaction history, there are two kinds. There is the one that does not have a minus in front of it, which is just 200, 450, minus 400. This minus 400 means that there was a withdrawal that was made on the account. This 3,000 means a deposit. Anyone you see minus in front of it, that means it was a withdrawal. And anyone you don't see any sign in front of it means it was a deposit. So we have to render it based on those. We have to render it based on that condition which is on each of the figures. So the first thing is we have to write a condition, because we don't want to start setting a condition inside our HTML structure. We have to just write a condition right up here that determines which one is going to be displayed automatically right from when our application is loading. So we have a const of transaction type, equals that's going to be a mo, that's mon greater than 0. I know you understand this. Greater than 0, this question mark, either deposit or withdrawal. So once there's a transaction lesser than 0, it is a withdrawal, and anyone that is greater than 0, it's a deposit. So I guess you understand that, or does anyone understand that?
Maybe use credit and debit so that we'll
Okay, let me just credit and debit. All right, that's perfect. Credit, debit. So any transaction that is above 0, that is a credit alert, and anyone that is below 0 is a debit alert. So what is the next thing we have to do? We now have to input our value. We now have to add the type. You can see that with our HTML, we can actually write, what is the name? We can actually write a template literal. At this point, we are going to be writing a template literal into this. So what we are going to be doing is, we write a template literal. We do it like this, and we put the type, because from our HTML, we have, what is the name? We have, what will I call it? We have, I can't use a credit. Wait, let me go to our CSS here. Let me see, because some of the things we are going to be doing is already defined here. The person that gave us this source code, from where I saw it, the source code has some predefined CSS structures right here. I want to be sure I'm not just, so we don't have to start okay, you can see that there's a movement type of deposit here. So let me change this one to credit. Let me change it to credit and debit here, because this is what is going to use to, this is a condition that is going to render it. So let me change that to credit and debit, so we know that that is what we are working with. So we have transaction type. Once you have, so that is what is going to give us the type of transaction we have. Either it's going to be a credit alert or a debit alert, which is going to be this type, because the credit alert has to be a green. The normal way we have it on our application, on our bank application, when you have a credit alert, you see it as a green, and when you have a debit alert, you see it as a red. So I have to include the kind of transaction right here. So we have this. So we have that's the index plus 1. So it has to render everything over and over again. And we have this. That is the type of the transaction and the transaction type. So I have to put this again. Please, if you are not understanding, you can always cut me and I would try to explain all over again. Dami, go ahead. Your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to explain that index again. What exactly does it mean?
The index means is, you can see that an array has different kind of elements inside. The index is the position. You know, an array starts from 0, and at every point there has to be an index. So you have 1. We said that.
0.
Yeah.
I said it starts from 0.
Yeah, an array starts from 0. So at every point you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. That is the index. That is the index of the array. So do you understand?
Yeah.
All right.
Hello, Femi Bless.
Yeah.
Hello, Femi. Let me try
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
explain it further for him. See, you see that the for each method and the map methods, most times they have they collect maybe 2 parameters. Now, the first one is the one you're trying to map out, like the for each, and the second one is more like a countdown. I used to take it like countdown. So basically, like in the code you are currently seeing, if you want to target a particular, like it's very useful if you want to, you don't want to target everything. You want to target maybe a particular section of the array. So the index now counts, this we told you previously that the index counts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So even though I have like 100 items in my array, I can target maybe number 58. Do you understand? So I can say, okay, the variable I'm looking for is the one that is at position number 58. So that idea is the same thing. Normally, usually we use index. So the index that counts 0, 1, 2, 3. So the idea, maybe you should change it to index so that you further understand it. So it's more like counting it down from which particular one is trying to target. Instead of mapping everything out, you can target it or you can map everyone out. So if you map everything out, if you have 100 items in an array and you don't use an index, it will probably map 100 of the items. Do you understand? But I can target only one of the items in the array. So that's just what it means. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
You understand it now?
Yeah, I get you.
All right, so let's continue. I had to, because some of the things we are going to be working with is beyond the scope. Some of the things in the application is beyond of the scope of this application, of what you are going to be working with in this class. That is why you can see I'm removing some of the details, because when you check the live link that we have, you can see that there are some, you have to see that there are some dates in front of it, and we are not working with dates. Trying to understand dates is a different thing entirely in JavaScript. So we are not going to be working with them at this point. We are just working with arrays. So let's continue. So we have this, and you can see I made mention of it in the last class that there are various ways we can actually write, we can actually input an element in JavaScript. You have the text content, which is something which everyone is familiar with before. We have the text content. These other ones. Let's go to the MDN documentation. MDN insert what's the name? Insert adjacent HTML. So, hello, please, can you still hear me?
Yes. We can hear you. We can hear you. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm trying to check for I'm trying to open. I don't want to explain because we have a lot of things to do. So I'm just going to open the MDN documentation so you can actually see the various types that we have, which is there's insert adjacent HTML. There's insert adjacent HTML. There's before beginning, there's before after, there's before end. There are 4 different types. So let me write them out. I don't know why the MDN documentation, why Google is kind of loading slowly, but once it comes up, I will show you what the different states of it. So what we're actually targeting to render on the screen actually is this container movement. Where is it? Is this movement object, this movement class? That is what you want to render on the screen. So I think in the JavaScript, it has actually been selected, document.query selector movement. So this is what we are going to be copying. Let's copy this because that is where we are going to be inserting our elements. So we have this right here, and we have just paste it, and we do dot insert, you can see insert adjacent HTML, which is the HTML element you want to insert, which is an HTML text. If it's an element, that means we have to use a section, a paragraph, and the like, but it's the HTML structure we want to write. So we just put an insert adjacent HTML, and we have this. Sorry, Josephine,
Sorry,
please.
Femi, she has a question.
Yeah, Josephine, ask a question. That was what I wanted to say.
Okay, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I noticed that you are adding 1 to the index, like that trans type plus 1.
Yes, that
Okay,
means you add 1. That means at every point, add 1 to it so it can move to the next. So now, when an array starts from 0, that means 0 plus 1. That means just move from the first one to the next one. That is what it means. You have to move. If you put an index, that is just the particular one. But you have to move. That is index plus 1. Move to the next one. After you have gotten to that one, move to the next one. That is 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 3. That is what the index does. Index plus 1. That means you are adding 1 to the current index. Do you understand, Josephine?
So, though I've not really understood what we're doing, but so you mean if we pick 200 now, we're going to say 200 plus 1. So to be
No, you are
200.
not.
Okay.
No. It is the
Okay.
index. In an array,
Okay. Yeah.
an array, it starts from
Mm.
0. The position in an array
Yes.
starts from 0. That means this 200 are the index position in an array is 0. This minus
Yes.
200, the index position is 1. This 304, the index position is 2. This
Okay.
minus 3, the index position is 3. So
Yes.
when you are trying to render it on the screen, the first index is a 0. That means 0 plus 1. Well, means when you have rendered this 200, you have 0. That means 0 plus 1 is now going to render what is next on the screen. That is 200, regardless of the amount of elements you have in the array. It will just keep adding 1 till it gets to the last one. So when it gets to the last one, that's when it gets to this minus 460. That is 0. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is 7 plus 0. That means once it gets to the last one and there's no additional digit to add behind it, that means the whole iteration, it has gone over each iteration at every point. Let me use that word. It has gone over every of the elements inside the array to render it on the screen. Do you understand now, Josephine?
Okay.
That
Thank
is why
you.
you add the plus 1 to the index, so that it's going to move over each one of the array. That's why it's going to move over each one of the elements inside the array to render it on the screen. When I show you, when I display the content on the screen, you will definitely see it. So
Understand. Okay.
where we actually add this is after beginning. What after beginning means is our table of contents opened? Let's check. Sorry, who are the people holding our Google network down? Why is it not showing? MDN documentation. I don't know why our MDN documentation is not open, but when it opens, I would show you the different kind of positions we have. So we have you can see when I open this parenthesis, we had different options. We have after begin, after end, before beginning, before end. Those are the various ways you can actually write an element. You can actually insert an element in JavaScript. So let's render this first of all and see what it looks like. So what we want to render is our HTML structure, which we have created right here, and which we have created right here. So let's now see. Now, can anyone tell me, is this going to actually show on our screen? Can anyone know, maybe probably this is going to show on our screen? Have we called our function yet? Damn, your hand is raised. Go ahead. Damilola, your hand is raised. Go ahead. Damilola.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
The insert adjacent, that the code, the insert adjacent. I really,
Adjacent HTML.
yeah, I just want you to just like,
Insert adjacent HTML is another way
yes,
of you overwriting elements on your
okay, something similar to
browser.
text content, Abby.
Yes, it's actually similar to text content,
Okay, okay.
but this is
Understand.
actually you writing a whole HTML structure. You know, before we just do insert adjacent. We just do let's say what is there? We just do
Document or query
just
selection
document or query selector, and we have the text content. That means we are just adding a text. But for this
to
now, we
that
are actually
particular, yeah.
adding an HTML structure, which
To
is
the,
a div, which has
so
a div, which is not just a text.
is it to alter the structure, like to
Yes,
alter the
it's going to
structure
it's not altering the structure, but it's going to insert more elements. Now
into
let's
that?
clear. It's going to insert more elements into our HTML. So let's clear this out
Okay,
now. Once we clear this out, if you go to our browser,
let me
you won't
see.
see anything. You won't see anything on the
Okay,
browser. But by
okay,
the time we use our insert adjacent HTML, that's why I made mention
okay.
in our last class that most times when you are working on a project, when you are working with APIs, you would be getting data from an external source. That is simply what this is saying. You know, now what if you are actually making use of an API, and at this point our data is yet to arrive, this place is just going to be blank.
I get
So
you.
so that is why I'm now. So now we have a structure in our HTML which we actually want to render on our screen, but we are not rendering it directly from our HTML. We are rendering it from our JavaScript. That means we are waiting
JavaScript.
for data to arrive from somewhere before we render it.
I
But we
understand.
have a dummy structure right here, which is what we are going to be prototyping after.
I understand you now. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
it will look like this one that you have
yes,
removed just now.
definitely going to look
Okay.
like it, because everything we are
Okay.
doing is we have actually created the structure in our HTML, and we have actually styled it. So what we are just doing is at this point here, we are actually just rendering the details from our HTML structure. So let's kind of call this function. Let us call this function and see what we have. Display transaction, that is account. So the transaction we actually want to display is from either of these accounts right here. So we do account one, that's account one dot movement. That means we are trying to target the element we are trying to target this movement inside any of these accounts. So let's save it and see what we have on our screen. So you can see now that we have all this rendered directly on our screen. Can you see?
From JavaScript, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
directly from JavaScript.
Okay, that object is like the API you are calling. Okay, I'm trying
Yes,
to.
that object is actually the API. I'm actually having like a API in my code, so that
Yes.
this object actually is what is holding each user's data. You can see now. Let's target this account for you to see the transactions that this person from this account 4 has done. So you look at this account 4. You can see just has only 5 transactions, and everything are all deposits. Everything are all credit alerts. There are no withdrawals there.
Yes.
So let's actually do account 4 dot movement and see what we have on the screen. So you can see now that we have this.
Okay.
You can see that we have this right here. We can see what we have. So that is what is actually going to render on the screen. We have created a structure. We have created the structure on our HTML,
HTML.
but
Okay.
we are not getting the data on our HTML. You know, if you actually want to do this in our HTML, we have to start writing each one of them one after the other.
And styling
But
it.
and styling them one after the other. But in JavaScript, what you just need to do is just create the structure and use a map or a for each. We actually use a for each here to render each one of them on the screen. So that is why we just have one element. You can see when in our JavaScript right here, we just have just one element.
Yeah.
We just have this alone, and it's
HTML.
rendered 4 times on the screen. Maybe 5 times rather. it's rendered 5 times directly on the screen. So the next thing we have to do is this our dummy text right here. We have to actually remove it because it's not supposed to be on the screen.
I want to ask the display you did there, is it something similar to console.log to help us print it out?
Yeah, okay, let me console.log it. So let's check our console. Let's console.log it right here. Let's do a console.log. You know, in product, when you're actually building an application, you will not be using console.log.
Okay.
Console.log is just for you as a developer to see it. What
Okay.
your users have to see on the screen is actually what I have rendered. Because if the users now want to make use of your application, they can't start opening their console. They can't start opening their console. Script, why is it saying undefined? Console.log transaction. Why is it saying undefined? 83. Why are you saying undefined? Okay, I know why. Let me save this in. Let me do a const.
Okay.
I'm coming. Let me do a const data equals this, and let's do this. Let's now save this inside.
Data.
Let's now consider data and see, because it's actually supposed to render each one of them one after the other. What's going on here? It's actually similar to, okay, I know why. It's actually similar to text content, but why is this not working? I'm sorry, I'm trying to know why this is not working, but okay, let's check it out. I'm trying to understand what is going on there. Okay, I think I've seen it. What I'm actually supposed to render is actually this inner HTML. So first things first, let's actually do something. Console const this wait, I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand what I did right here. Indexed adjacent HTML. What am I supposed to render is the movement. What I'm supposed to render here is the movement. I said, Adelaja, I'm going to explain that actually. I'm actually waiting for the Google documentation. Is that there's no how I can explain it with word of mouth except you see the documentation. I'm going to show you the implementation on the screen. So let me kind of console log this so that we can see what we have. So we'll do a console.log right here. Come in. Console.log that's container movement dot inner HTML. Sorry, please, who is that? Whose mic is unmuted? Whose mic is actually muted? Abi, whose mic is actually on? That is. So this is actually. So let's check it out. So this is Dami. Can you see?
Yes,
Can you
I'm
see?
seeing.
You can see that each one of them are rendered. For one of them, that element we have is actually going to take up each one of them one after the other without us trying to change it at all. So it's going to render the content. You can see that we have movement row, which is everything right here is actually going into this movement array. It's actually going into this movement on line 53. It's actually going into this div on line 53.
For the HTML.
Yes, on our HTML. You know, we define this we define this movement and what we targeted right here. You can see that we targeted our container movement. You can see we have online 48 this.
Yes.
We targeted it right here so that we can render it on the screen.
Yes.
So that is what we actually did. So do you understand it?
Yes, I do. I do understand.
Okay. So let's check for other accounts to see if our calculation is actually correct. So let's check for this. So you can see that on this part, you can see that any account we put into it is actually going to work. And that is why this is a reusable function. This function is actually reusable because you can call any any transaction, any user's transaction on it right there. We can actually call any user. That's how you can call account for transaction and every other thing, and it's actually going to render directly on the screen. So do you understand how we use the for each method now? Because it's actually going to take the first the is actually going to take the elements you want to render and the index, which is this. That means if for each of each one of them, that means you're telling the your JavaScript that okay, oh, what
Map.
do I want to render? Hello, who is that? Someone made a comment just now. Paul, your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask. Sorry, my network kicked me out when you were doing the content dot adjacent. The first value in that place that again after again what does it is it a class or an ID or stuff
Where is that? Again.
after
Okay,
the
after
insert
begin.
yes after
Okay,
begin yeah
this is it. When you are trying to do an insert adjacent HTML, there are three ways. The insert adjacent HTML is just similar to your text content. You know, when we are trying to change some data in our JavaScript, we want to change the text. What we actually do is the content. What's the name? After we have selected the class, we now do something like this. Dot text content. That is basic. That is the same thing. That's the same thing insert adjacent HTML does. So, but now we are not inserting just a text. We are inserting an HTML structure, which is what we want to render on the screen. So you can see that everything we have right here, is a different div on its own. Can you see that, Paul?
I'll consider so that div the class of the div is what you targeted.
The class, this is what we targeted. This class movement. This is where we want to put it. Container movement. That is what is holding this box. This box where all the transactions are being displayed inside is what is actually holding each one of them. That is where, and each one of these is a separate div on its own. This credit of 5,000, this credit of what's the name, 3,400 is actually the what's the name, is actually the each one of those div that is rendered right here. Everything we have right here is actually, this is actually what is rendering. This HTML content that we have on line 71 is actually what is being rendered in our HTML structure, which we have. Do you understand, Paul?
Yes, I understand now.
So everything we are doing, we want to render this div, but we don't. It's not a text. It's actually an HTML element. So the next thing we have to use an insert adjacent HTML into it. And for this after beginning, there are different ways you can actually write your HTML. This after, let me check it out again. There are different ways. Like you have the after begin, after end. Let's check the after end and see what it does on our screen. Josephine, I'm coming, just a second. You can see now this after end is going to a different place entirely. It's telling you that after this element, kindly show it. That is what the after begin does. After end, that means once this element has ended, once this element, this movement, that means show it right after this element. That is what it says. That's simply what it implies, that once this element is over, once this element, after this element, just show the content inside it, show it afterwards. That is what the after end does, basically. So, but that is not what we want. I'm supposed to show you the documentation so we can actually just understand it better from the documentation, but I don't know, my Google is not opening. My Google search engine is not opening. So, Josephine, your hand is raised. Go ahead, please.
Okay, sir. Okay. So please, I just want you to just walk me through. You see this, I'm seeing that it is dynamic. The things are changing from
Yes.
72 to 75. The way it is
Yeah.
displayed, like I noticed that transaction type is what will show the credit or the
Or the
debit.
debit.
Just walk me through the code so I will understand it. I want to picture it. So when I
Okay.
want to do it, I'll do it myself.
All right. So this is it. You know, in your bank application, there are either two kinds of transaction, which is a credit alert and a debit alert. Do you understand that, Josephine?
Yes, I know that.
Okay. So now, what we actually want to render on our screen is the transactions that we have made
Okay.
on our account. So the transaction, these are the transactions that are made on this account. That is what is in this movement array. Do you understand that?
Okay. Yes, I know.
So now we add a function right here that, okay, transaction type, that is the particular transaction, each one of this one, that is either the 430, the 1000, the 700, the 50, or the 90, either of this transaction, if it's greater than 0, that means
Yes.
it's a credit alert. And when it's lesser than 0, it's a debit alert. Do you understand that?
Okay, yes, I understand that.
So now, what we actually want to render is this div. What we actually want to render is this div. And for us to be able to render this div, we have to target our HTML structure. So now, in our HTML structure, we have this.
Sorry, sir. Has that transaction type been declared?
Yes, the transaction type has been declared now.
All right.
You know, the transaction type is actually,
Is it
we declare
inside
the
the
transaction
function?
type. Wait, Damilola.
I get it now. I get it
The
now.
transaction type was declared here. And you know,
Yes.
we created a style. We
Yes.
created a style in our CSS,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is going to, if you go to our CSS now, you can see that this is a CSS class.
Yeah.
We're actually targeting our CSS from here, actually.
I get
So
you.
if you go to our CSS now, you will see that we have
Mm.
movement type credit, movement type debit.
Credit.
If it's a credit alert, you show this green, And
Yeah.
if it's a debit alert, you show this red.
Red. Yeah.
That is what we have right here. So we are actually targeting this transaction right here. That is what we are using to change the class dynamically in our from our CSS inside our JavaScript. That is what we actually do. So now this I+1 is now what is telling us that, okay, this is a credit alert. This is a credit alert. This is a minus. This is a, what's the name? This is a debit alert. This is a credit alert. So if you can now check it, you can now see that right here, what we are actually rendering. Why is this coming? Which accounts are we showing? Account 2. After begin. So why is this not showing? Let me check. Okay, you can now see that we have 5 credit alerts, right? 5 transactions that has been made on this account. So at this point, we are having transaction type credit or debit. When you have the transaction type credit or debit, you now add a +1 to it. That means, okay, if it's that is the list of the transactions we have. Sorry, please, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear
Yes,
you.
you can.
Okay. All right. So we have first transaction, the second transaction, the third transaction, the fourth transaction. We have the fifth transaction. That is what we have online. That is what we have on line 73. That's what we have on line 73. And the transaction type. Yes, we have a 1. Okay. The transaction, we know that an array starts from 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. That is what we have right here. Then for the transaction type, you are now rendering, okay, is it a credit alert or a debit alert? That is why you have this 1 credit, 2 credit, 3 credit, 4 credit, 5 credit. Josephine, are you following?
I'm with you. I think, though I don't know if I'm right, but I'm thinking. Now, if you check line 73, I'm
Okay.
noticing that I plus 1,
Mm-hmm.
then transaction type. Go to your
Okay.
display. Go to your display. What you
Okay.
want to display this?
This
Yes,
is it.
this 5 credits. I think that's
Yeah.
what is. I don't know if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that is what 5 credits. But what I could not really understand is it starting from up down or down up? I'm trying to
It
get
is
it.
starting. It is starting from the position here. You can
Okay.
see that. You can see that the first thing you have right here is 43.
Yes,
430.
430. Yes.
That's the first one. That is 0 plus
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we check the array now, you can see that 430 is the first one and
One.
90
Yes.
the last one. So if you now check
Yes.
right here, you can now see that is the same way it rendered it. It rendered the first one below, the second,
Okay.
fourth, and fifth. That means this 90 is the last one on the array. That is why it is
Okay.
rendered.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
do you
I get. I
understand?
understand. Yes, I understand. I
So it
understand.
is not, it's not changing the position based on, okay, trying to filter it, okay, which one is comes first, which one comes second. That is,
Hmm.
if you actually want to do that, you can see that if we check this down part, we have this sort. That's if you know your bank application, you would see that all your transaction just
Hmm.
if the way your transaction goes, that is the way it's going to be rendered on your transaction history. You can now
Yes.
you can now sort it out to see, okay, I just want to see only credit alerts. I want to see only debit alerts. I want to see the one that is greater than how the money came in at every particular point. That is by the time we implement this sort function, that is actually what is going to happen. So do you understand now, Josephine? Are we all
Yes.
clear?
I understand. I understand. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. Does anyone have any other question before I continue going?
So I have.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes,
I have a
my own
question,
is
sir.
just an observation. Is it that this the HTML this thing that you copied and pasted on our JavaScript, can we
Yeah.
call it an object literal or a
Yes,
template literal?
it's template literal we use now. You can see that we have the back tick right here. We can't use a quote.
Okay,
We can't use a quote for
okay,
this. It's going to actually throw an error. We can't use a
all
quote
right.
for this. So that is why we have to use a template literal. So that is if you are trying to write your JavaScript in your HTML, you have to use, if you want to write HTML inside JavaScript, you can't use a quote the normal way we do it. We just have to use a template literal. Do you understand, Paul?
Yeah, but can we go to the HTML and then let me like even though we go to the HTML after using this template literal, yeah, if we go to the HTML and remove, or let me say and use like not show this one here, will it still be available on the site?
We have removed this, right? We have removed this
Yeah.
already. So let's check. You can see we don't have it on our screen any longer. But you want that previous one that we have on our HTML. You want it to show, right?
Yeah. Yes.
To show from our JavaScript directly. Is
No,
that
no, no.
what you?
Like as you deleted here now. Okay,
Yeah.
we can still see it in our screen.
The reason why we can see it on our screen is because we call this here and we are actually rendering all this movement array.
Okay, okay,
So what we just have in
okay.
our HTML right here is just a dummy content. It's just a dummy content. But what we want is that all our code are dynamically generated from our API calls. That is what these details right here. This is just a dummy API because the next topic we are going to be actually doing is actually APIs, promises and asynchronous programming. So that is why this here stands for a dummy API. Okay, this is where our data is being saved. This is an external server where our data is being saved.
Okay.
So for you to be able to render it on the screen, you need an HTML structure because if you are by the time you are rendering data from an API, what you are going to be using is just a map, the best way to use it is an array. You're going to be using different kind of array method to render data on the screen. That is why I'm actually going through this, so that by the time we go into API calls, generally, you would know how to use it perfectly well. So do you understand, Paul?
Yes, sir. I understand. Thank you.
All right. Someone else was raised the other time. Who was that? Hilary, go ahead.
Okay, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, first of all, I'm actually not following. I've been in the class, so I would just want to ask some questions. That MOD, is it the same with movement? Was it shortened?
No, it's not the same as movement. This MO is just you defining anything. I can call it anything. Let me do a Control F. And let me call it goats. So you can see that it's still going to work. Goats. So this is just you giving it any variable name of your type. So you can see we still have the same thing on our screen. This goats and I is just a variable type. It's just like you naming a parameter. You know, a function takes in a parameter. That is what this goats and I simply stand for. These are your parameters. You can name it anything of your choice, and they will definitely work. Do you understand?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Oh, hello, sir. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm still accepting your questions. Go ahead.
Okay, sir. Good morning, sir. Please, I came late to the class, so I'm trying to follow the code to understand. So I have issue where you said outline 78. You said
Okay.
you said
Insert
adjacent
HTML.
HTML. So
Yes.
what I'm used to is I think I use inner HTML. Can you try and explain the difference?
Okay. Inner HTML is still the same thing.
Yes. Okay.
So now what I actually want to do is I'm supposed to clear the previous data we have right here.
Okay.
I'm actually supposed to clear it. So this is what I am going to do. I'm going to do a container movement. I'm going to do inner HTML, and I'm going to render it to an empty string. So by the time I do this, okay, JavaScript. By the time I do this, you would see that what we have previously on our screen, we have cleared it before. Lawal, are you following? You use inner.
Yes, I'm following you. I'm following you.
Yeah, actually, please, can you mute your mic? Okay. So we make use of inner adjacent. That's why I say that inner HTML, insert adjacent HTML, and all, they are all similar. They are actually the same way as text content. So I don't know why the Google is actually slow. I should have opened the documentation so that we can actually understand what I'm actually doing. Because trying to use word of mouth to explain it you won't understand it unless you see the visualization. That's one thing about JavaScript. JavaScript look kind of abstract, but if you see the visualization, you will actually understand. So, Paul, that will not concern
Okay,
you.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Paul, that will not concern you. Now you know waiting your ear fine and good there. Josephine, your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Okay, so you are saying that after we have finished building our dummy, first of all, you will build the dummy before you start doing the functionality.
Yes.
So the first thing, you have to clear whatever you have built there. I notice you are not saying.
Yes, your users does not have to see your dummy data any longer because they'll be confused.
Okay.
Because you can see now that we just have, these are the transactions that are here. These are the transactions we have right here. And how come I didn't do anything. I'm just opening. You're just opening your bank app for the very first time. You just opened an account with your bank, and you have not made any transaction, and you are going to your account, and you are seeing that even before you made any transaction, they already credited you 4,000 naira, and before then they already had some debited they already debited some money from the account. So that is why this one is just standing as okay, as a structure that's okay. Oh, when you are building your application, that is the structure you should follow. So you don't have to start thinking up over your head, how am I going to render these details? Because most of what you'll be doing as a front-end developer, if you are building web app, is that you'll be building all your e-commerce. Let's use e-commerce for example. All your e-commerce websites are all built like this because they will they are getting all those data from an external source. And by the time they are getting it from an external source, they have to render it on the screen. So by the time you render it on the screen, that is when it's now going to be displayed on the screen directly, not in your HTML. Because by the time, if you want to display this on your HTML now, you have to write thousands of lines of code. And with just a simple line of code, we have it directly on our browser without us stressing. What we just need to do is we just wrote the structure and we brought it directly into our HTML. Josephine, do you understand?
Yes, I understand you very well. Thank you.
All right, so let's go. Does anyone have any question before we move forward? Does anyone have any question before we move forward? Because the next thing we'll actually be doing
This
now
inner
is
HTML, will you leave it there too?
inner HTML. It's going to be there now because that's what I used to clear.
Yeah, sir.
That's what I used to clear it. That's what I used to clear the previous data that was there.
Okay. I get you now.
You can see now the previous data is no longer there any longer.
Get you.
Yeah, so that's it. Don't worry, Paul. Why are you answering? I supposed to have dropped your tax yesterday, but you guys have labeled KodeCamp that Tuesday are the days of tax, and it's one of the first days of the life. I don't want that to be. So don't worry. After this class, you will get your tax. It just reminded me now. So Josephine, do you still have a question?
So my hand is up.
No, I don't.
Your hand is raised. Oh, Josephine, you just raised up your hand. It was
No, I've lowered it. I don't know why that's why I went to check. That's why. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So no problem. I mistook your name for what's the name? Genevieve brother. So let's continue. So the next thing we actually want to do now is
My hand is raised.
whose hand is raised? I can't see anybody's hand raised again.
It's Genevieve.
Okay, ask your question, Genevieve.
Okay, sir. First of all, I'm struggling to see. I don't know if you can help to zoom out.
Which one of them? Is it my code or
The code.
can you see it now?
Okay, better now. Okay, secondly,
right.
the record is showing muted, but now I think you've corrected it. So I don't know if it has been muted since.
No, I've not been muted since. I've been speaking since actually.
No, I mean the recording part.
The recording.
You just removed it now. So I just hope it doesn't affect the recording.
No, it doesn't affect the recording.
Okay, sir. Concerning this, our HTML part, I don't know. Does it mean if it's in the normal HTML, it won't show in our code?
The normal HTML is going to show in your code, but before you can render a code, HTML code in your JavaScript, you can't use what's the name? You can't use quotes. You have to use a backtick. You have to use a template literal, which is this backtick actually.
Yeah.
Which is this backtick which I use. That is how you are going to write an HTML in your JavaScript. So now, what we just did right here was just simply that we have an HTML structure of the elements we want to render on our screen, which is this. But we don't want to render it from here. We don't want to add code it. If you are writing in your HTML, you can't write element. You can't what will I say? You can't dynamically add elements to your HTML because it's a structural thing. But if you want to add elements dynamically to your JavaScript, what do? You come right here, you copy your structure from your HTML, and you impute it from your JavaScript, and you render the details you want to render, and you have it on your screen. Genevieve, do you understand?
Okay, yes, now I understand. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So the next thing,
Sorry, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
yeah, I can hear you.
Sir, please, in that const display transaction function, that transaction in between this the bracket after the function. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. This is
I
just
said,
a parameter actually. Transaction is a parameter. And which transaction are you targeting? You are targeting this array of objects. You are targeting this array of objects. So you can see that when I wanted to do a transaction dot for each, what am I targeting? This transaction, because that is where that's where the transaction is coming from. You can see transaction of any, and I did transaction dot for each. Then I did an account dot movement. So I am targeting this transaction is targeting each one of these accounts. That transaction you can see right there is targeting one of these. Do you understand, Hilary? Hilary, you asked a question and I'm explaining and you are muted. Why? Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yes,
I
sir.
have it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, so, sir, there's something that came to my mind now. This
All right.
go to the done first. Let me check something. Okay, done. When you the JavaScript, the chat is blocking me. Move it.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, transactions dot for each. Okay, it's not
Yes.
accounts. This is transactions. Okay,
Yes.
so this transactions is the name of the variable for movement, right?
This
Okay.
is it. This transaction actually stands for this object of arrays. Actually, is actually a parameter. So
Okay.
now, when I want to do something, I will definitely just do what? Transactions, accounts, transaction dot for each. So now, when I want to call the function, you can see here now that I am calling this function. You can see now that this transaction, it has an account. This display transaction, it has transaction right here of any. And the parameter I'm passing into it is this account dot movement. So that means this parameter, if we are to say this now, this transaction right here, it actually stands for this account for movement that I'm passing right here. That is actually what it stands for. If you can remember when I was talking about functions in the last class, in one of our JavaScript classes, when we were creating an apple fruit juice, I put apple and oranges as our parameter. When I was now calling it down, I now did something like fruit juice of 4 and 10. And the statement that it was going to return was this apple the statement actually returned there was this apple juice was created with 4 oranges and 10 apples. Can you remember? If you can, yeah, that is actually the same thing I actually did here. I can't actually put in this account directly into it because it's I can't actually put it inside. So I pass it as a parameter right here.
Okay.
I pass this transaction as a parameter into it. And when I came down here, display transaction account.movement, that is the parameter. This account.movement translates into this parameter I am passing right here. Do you understand, Josephine?
Okay. Account for, okay. So what you are just saying here is that these transactions is just a variable for any array.
It's just a variable for any array. So you can now say, now I can now change account 4 to account 2. And it's
Yes,
going
I
to
understand.
the same way.
I understand.
It's simply going to work the same way. So
I
are we good now?
understand. Yes, very good. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So now the next thing we actually want to work on is trying to give each user a unique username, because by the time, if you check through our application, if we check through the dummy data we were working on, if we check through this dummy data, you can see that a user has to log in before what's the name? Before they get access to the account. That is how your bank app works. You have to log in before you have access to your account, right? So now let's do that. But you can see that in our code base here, we don't have a username for each user. Can you see that? So now we have to create a username for each of the users. So let's do this. So now let me comment this as creating username. Creating username. So someone is asking a question. Who is that? Is anybody hand raised? No. So let's continue. We have a username. So now we have to create a username. And how is the user's name going to be created? It's going to be created from the name. And how is that going to work? Excuse me. It's actually going to be an abbreviation of the first letter of the user's name, of the owner's name, and the first letter of the surname. So let's do it. So let's do this. So we have something like this. This is what we are going to do. We are going to do a const. We are going to create a function the same way we have created it, the same way we have it before. We are creating a reusable function. We have a const create username equals function. So what are we passing there? We are passing account, because it's the account that we're actually going to use.
Yeah.
It's the account you're actually going to use, and we have this. So please just follow, and when you have any issue, we can always dot for each. I'm actually using a for each again, so that you are picking each one of the arrays, then function. Sorry, why am I right? Please note that your JavaScript is actually case sensitive, so you don't have to use what is the name? You don't have to use capital letter. Everything has to be in small letter. So we now do a name dot username. Your hands are raised, please. ID, go ahead.
Hello, good day. Yeah, well, I've been trying to follow the class, but like what you're actually doing, trying to create a username, I thought it would have been a lot easier if it were just added into the object of each account. Wouldn't that be a lot easier than going through this method that you're doing?
It's actually going to be a lot easier, but you don't want your users to create username for themselves, because sometimes your users might forget their username. So what we actually want to do is that regardless of any account, regardless of anybody's name that comes in, we can always create a different. Once the person imputes his name, it can always create a username for the user directly from the account. So we don't have to be manually writing a username for that person. What the user just have to do is that the user just have to input their name, and our function here actually automatically create a username for that person. Heidi, do you understand?
Yes, understood. Yes,
Don't
understood.
worry. Let me finish so you can see what I'm doing. Let me finish first of all so you can see that even if we add a different if we add another array to that, it would if we add another array to that, it would actually just compute the user's name automatically. So that is what I'm trying to do right here. So that is equals you can see that this owner is coming from here directly. You can see this is the owner's name. This is where it's coming from directly. So we are targeting that one after the other. So we now do, there are some ways in JavaScript that you can convert an element, basically. So we do a dot to lowercase because we want all our users' elements, all our users our username to come in lowercase. Then we have to split it. I made mention of this in the last class about split, how you split an element. And the next thing we have to do is we do a dot map. This is where we have a map right there. So now we are trying to map over each one of the arrays. So what we have here now is now name dot name at position 0, and we do something called a join, and this is what we have. So once we come here, we have create username account 1. So let's check it out. Does anyone understand what I did right here? We have to console
I
to
don't
log it.
know.
No, sir.
Just calm down. So now let's
Sorry,
do
sir.
this.
Can you hear me, sir?
I'm coming. Just please let me just whose name is here? Let me join 3 people's name together. Let me do join, and let me coming. So let me just add a name right here. I'm trying to see how I can add the name. Benjamin Frank. Can see Benjamin Frank Klein John. So let's see what we have. For each is not a function. Why is it not a function?
Yeah, sir, you did a mistake. From that join, you didn't put the same apostrophe or the quotation mark that you put on the split. I think, I don't know.
Sir, I think you are done. We are working on function and you put a string.
And I put a what?
String data type. You are working on function. Array, sorry.
Where did I put a string data type?
Create username. At line 90, use for each. That is work for array. And it's not seeing it.
So I'm coming. I want to try another method. Just a second. I want to try another method because this is just the same thing. I'm coming. I want to try another method. I'm coming. Can you please mute your mic? I want to quickly try another method.
Okay.
I want to try another method so we can see what we did right here. So let me just clear this and see const. I'm coming, just a second, please. So I'm coming. I'm trying to no, I'm not. I'm coming. Just a second, please. What's going on here? So create username, and I'm going to pass in the account. I'm going to pass in the account, and I'm now going to do console.log account. So let's see. This should actually work. Owner2 is not a function. Owner.name. Why is owner.name not
So
a
I think
function?
there's a problem there, sir.
I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to look at myself.
And I think there's a problem under line 94.
Line 94.
No, sir.
There's no problem.
I have a
94.
991. Name just username. You are
Name
declaring a
does
variable there. I mean, what did 991?
I'm actually creating a variable right there.
Variable.
I'm actually
So
creating
can
a
we set the
variable.
variable to name just username?
Yes, because eventually that's what is going. That's actually going to. That's what is going to save it right there. Oh, I know. I know where the error is coming from. Can anyone spot the error for me? I know where the error is coming from. I've seen the error already. Can anyone tell me where? No.
You did not close it with a semicolon. Wow.
No.
I know.
When you
must declare the variable first.
It has to be in capital letter. It has to be in capital letter. To lowercase. That is where the error
JavaScript is mad at that.
So you can see now that it has gone. So now if we check each of the accounts, you see that there's a username right here, which is IK Benjamin now has a username of IB. Taylor Swift now has a username of TS. Tunde Address now has a username of TA. Toluwalashe John now has a username of TJ. Do you understand why I was creating a variable with this? Do you understand why? Yeah. Do you understand why I was creating? Because,
You still explain
Dami,
yes.
What did you say?
I said like you still explain one more time.
Yeah, I'm going to explain one more time again.
What you were saying, but like the code.
So this is what I did. I want each of our users to have a username. So the thing I just did was go into each of the users' accounts. That means each of these accounts right in front of us. If each of these accounts we have up here, which is our data, which is coming from our API, the next thing we have to do is check their name, which is this owner's name. Check it out, and once you get there, that is where we have this for each. That is create a user.name. Create a username for the user. So what you now have is name.owner. You convert it. You can see that everything right here, the first letter of each of this name is in capital letter. But we don't want a capital letter to be a username. So the first thing we have to do is we converted it first to a lowercase. That is what this to lowercase simply means.
So when you have this name, what does it imply? This name dot username name.
This is a variable on its own. We are just creating a variable right here.
Okay. The name in the function. What about the name in the function?
That is a parameter.
Okay.
This is it. If we do a console.log here, dot log account. Let's check it out. That's on line 90. You can see on line 90, each of the accounts is being rendered.
Yeah, I get you.
So wait, let me just comment this out. You can see that on line 90, each of the accounts. Why are you still showing me this?
990 is up.
990, each of the accounts is being rendered. So we have the interest, we have the movement, we have the owner's name, and we have a pin.
Okay.
So now, is this account here, we are now passing into this for each.
Okay.
That is what we are now passing into this for each right here. That okay, now I have a variable name of name, which is the same thing here. So what I just did was name.username. So from that name that is passed into it, I want to create a variable. I want to add additional data into this place with a name of username into each one of the arrays of objects that we have. I want to create a username. That is when it now goes into the name.owner. This is the owner's name. Toluwalashe John. That is when it goes into the Toluwalashe John's name. Then it converts everything to a lowercase. Once he has converted everything to a lowercase, he then splits it into two. Splitting it into two means that, okay, instead of both of them, Toluwalashe John should be a single name. Divide both of them into two. And what are we dividing it with? We are dividing it by this space.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at both of them, you can see that there's a space in between both of them. So it's that space that we are dividing it by.
Okay.
With that space that I have divided it by, they now map through it. Then you can see that you are using a map right here. By the time we have a map, that means each of the names is now going to be like this. Each of the names are going to be like this. This is how each of the names are going to be like. Let me just show you. By the time you split the names, it's now going to be like this. It's going to be like this. It's going to be like Toluwalashe. That is one name, and John. This is how it's going to be like. Once you have split both of them, it comes out like this, John. So both of them, instead of them being a joint variable before, they are no longer a joint variable. So now we now want to map through each one of them. What are you mapping through? What are you doing? That map is, I made mention of it in the last class. That map is another type. I'm sure I made mention of that. Map is another way of rendering data in JavaScript on the screen. So now, what are we doing? We are mapping through each one of them. That means this Toluwalashe and this John, we are mapping through one of them. And Toluwalashe is a single variable on its own. John is a single variable on its own because we have splitted both of them. So now, when you are mapping through it, give me the first letter. That means from this Toluwalashe, T is the first letter of Toluwalashe, and J is the first letter of Toluwalashe. At position 0, you know it's now an array. Dami, do you understand? Dami, are you following?
Yes, I'm following you. Yes.
So you know that Toluwalashe now is now an array of letters.
Yes.
Then John also is now an array of letters. So at position 0, give me T. At position 0 is J. So by the time you have given me the two letters, now I now use a join. So let's use position 3. Let's use position 3 right here to see what we have. You can see that on position 3 of Toluwalashe is a U. That is T is 0, O is 1, L is 2, U is 3. Then for John, it is N. So let's check what we have for Toluwalashe John. So let's check 104. Toluwalashe John is going to be UN. The username for Toluwalashe John is going to be a UN. You can see right here.
Yeah, I get you.
So that is what I just did in there. When I'm trying to create a username for our application.
Hmm.
Does anyone understand? Do everyone understand? Rather, let me just say, do
I
everyone
understand.
understand?
I
So wait,
understand,
All
but I
right.
want to. Okay, somebody want to speak. I will wait.
but
All right.
like you'll be
Okay.
talking about
So
that Oluwala said, John. How does he like involve every other account? Or is it because you call the account generally? That's why it affects
Yes,
everyone.
it's because we call the account generally. That is why any account that is there, it works directly. You can see now that
Okay.
we have UN for Toa Lashejon. If we check for Tunde address, let's check for Tunde address. What do we have as this username? We have DE, which is the fourth letter on Tunde and E on address. If we check for Taylor Smith, we have LT, which is the username of our user. And for this IK, we have YJ.
Okay.
So because we just created one function and we created only this function and we called the array, the account array. We call this account array. We call this account array here. We call this account array here. We called it
Hmm.
on it. So that means it can work for any of the accounts that we are working with. You understand?
I get you now.
All right.
That's
So Josephine, please go ahead.
okay, what I just want to understand on line 89, that
Line
account that
89.
yes, it's the
Okay.
account that is there is just a variable, right?
It's just let me change this. Let me change this account to
Okay.
what should I change it to so you can understand? Just give me a
Okay,
word.
that
Let
one
me
is
change it.
okay.
Change it to
Because
Josephine. Josephine.
Okay, let me
because
let
there
me
is another.
let me use juice. Let me use juice. I'm a fan of juice Mori. Let me just use juice.
Okay.
Juice. And we come right here also. We have juice. And we
Okay.
also just use juice here. So
So
Control
what
Z. Let
is
me just
confusing me is why is it that account is now showing that if you go up, you declare one variable called accounts. Okay, you
right
called
here.
it.
I
Okay,
called it.
yes.
I called it right here. When I called
Yeah,
create username,
okay.
I out accounts into it.
Okay. Okay, that's why it's working. Okay, I get.
That's why it's
I
working for each
understand.
one of them. You can see that each one of them now has a username included
Oh,
into the array of objects, which was created dynamically from JavaScript. So the
oh,
user does not need to start thinking of username. What they just have to do is once they log in, they know that is the abbreviation of their first name and their last name. That is what gives us their username. So that is it actually. So
okay.
if we have an account that has someone that has like 5 names, so let's try it out. If we have account 5, if we have for someone that has like 5 names, Tolu, let me now use your name. Let me use your name. I'll join you and Abraham together. Abi you and Paul, John, Josephine, and who else? Whose name should I add there again? So we can see that it's actually going to compute for the numbers of name that we have there. Let me use Hilary. So let's return this back to position 0. Let's return this back to position 0. So you see that regardless of the number of name that is there, it will compute everything and give us, oh sorry, I have not included this. I've not included this as account 5 here, so it's not going to show account 5. So once we save now, you see that we have an array. So you can see we have the fifth account we have here is Paul, John, Josephine, and Hilary. All of you are running joint accounts. So you now see that the username, it automatically computes the username with the first letter of each name, which is PJJH. Are we following? Are we following, please?
Yes, yes. So for each
So you
works
can
with
see that
objects.
it works for anything because of just
Okay.
that one single function I wrote. I can, no matter the name of if the person has 100 names, it's going to remove the first letter of each one of them and bring everything together. So, do you understand now, Josephine?
Yes, clear, very clear, crystal clear. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any other question before we move forward?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I'm actually having it's confusing me though. With the namings, like if assuming you did not change the Josh to Josh, I would think is so it's confusing me. Because this is the question I want to ask. This dots, can you go up a little, sir, to the previous one we did? This this no, you're going too far. This account two dots after display transaction in bracket account
Yes.
two dot movement. What does account two dot movement? Is it a variable?
This is where account 2 is coming from. This is account 2 right here. This is account 2 right here.
Account two dot
You
movement.
can see this is the movement. We have a movement inside it, which is this array of transactions right inside it. So that means I am targeting that account. I am targeting that particular account dot the movement. That is what I'm actually doing right here.
So does it mean that you are targeting the account and you are targeting the movement inside the account also?
Yes, that is simply what I am doing. I am targeting that particular account. I can actually, okay, let me change this to account 5. That is, I am targeting that particular account 5. No, where is that account 5? Okay, you can see, let me add more transaction to it. Let me do 2,000, let me do 5,000, let me do 6,000, let me do 20,000. So now let's check it out. So you can see now, account 5, all the transaction I made is right there. These are all the transactions. And I can simply just go to, if it's another account I want to work with, I can just do this. I just go to account 1. The reason why the normal way is actually going to work is it depends on the particular user's account that is going to log in, which is why the next thing we're actually supposed to do is to create a login, a default login for each of the users. So you can see now that when
Sir, my hand have been raised since, sir.
I actually did that,
Sir, can you hear me? I can't hear you anymore.
what did I do right here? I changed it to hello, please, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but I cannot see your
Yes, sir, we
screen.
can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes,
Please
we
confirm
can
you
see.
can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
All right. So I was explaining that. What was that? Sorry, where did you guys lost me? Okay, I was changing this to transaction actually, so that you can understand. So where were we? Where were we checking it? Okay, we just
Display
changed it.
transaction.
Yeah, we changed it to transactions. So let's now check what we have on the screen. You can see we still have the same thing. Let's also change it to account 5. Let's also change it to account 5. Let's see what we have. You can see with account 5. Hilary, can you still hear me? Hilary, are you there? Hilary, are you there? Hilary, this was the same thing you did the other time. You asked the question and you dropped off. You now made me start explaining myself all over and over again. And this is the last time it's going to happen. If you can't stay on the call for me to answer your question, you can't go back and be dragging me back always. You did it the last time. I was explaining to you and you dropped off the call. You now came back again and you are now making me do the same thing. I'm answering your question now. You now dropped off. Don't worry. I'm not going to, from henceforth, if you ask me any question in this class, I'm not going to answer you. You can take me to anywhere. You can report me to IK. You did it twice in this class. So there's no problem. Adio, please ask your question.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Yeah.
Sir, since we are using the first letter of the names as username, let's say in a situation whereby we have the name correlating with an existing name, that is the letters. Is there a way we can create a condition that will vary the username at that moment?
Like, okay, if the person's name is A and the surname is also A, right?
So yes, let's say all the letters are the same with an existing username.
And that is why a password that's by the time that's you know that if you are actually creating, if you
because on neutral ground, username shouldn't be the same on the platform with the same username. Two people shouldn't be using the same username.
Yes, this is just a dummy. This is just something dummy. By the time we are creating the implementation, we are not actually working on something that, okay, yes, this is live. We are just trying to understand array methods right here. We are not, by the time we are creating an authentication flow, what we are talking about is an authentication flow, whereby, okay, now you create an account and you want to create an account and they're asking you for a username. That username you are entering at that particular point, it is checking with the company you are trying to register with, probably Facebook now. You are trying to create a username on Facebook. The moment you are entering that username, it's actually going to be checking the database to see that if that particular name exists. If that particular name exists, you will see an error that is returned back to your screen. That's what you're actually doing there is you're making an authentication function right on the spot, checking from the database to see that if a user name is actually existing in the database. If that you know that if that username exists in the database, the next thing you tell your user is this username has already been taken. Pick another username. Is that not what happens?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, but in this case, we are not going through that route. We are not performing any authentication function. So we are just trying to understand how array method works. That is why we are making use of it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, Genevieve, please go ahead. Genevieve, please go ahead.
Maybe it's a mistake. My hand is not raised.
Okay. All right, no problem then. So the next thing we have to work on now is we want to work on the reduce function. We have to work on the calculation. Like, okay, let's calculate all transactions that the users has made and render it right here. That's actually what we want to calculate. Okay, audio transaction that has gone on the account, we want to calculate it and render it at the top of the screen right here. Sorry, please, can anyone show me the Naira sign? We are in Nigeria. I'm not using Naira sign, Naira symbol. I hope this one goes once and for all. So the next thing I want to calculate now is calculation of the balance. We have created the username. Let's just calculate balance. Calculate user balance. Const. Please, are we all following? Hope it's not looking like magic in front of us. Please, are we all following? Can anyone hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
we can hear you.
Hope it's not looking like magic. Let me be clear.
No, sir.
All right, so let's calculate balance. So equals, we have a function. Same function we are going to pass in function, and we have this. Let me check my chat box to see. Okay, so we have a function and we have, let's use the same thing we use right up here. Let's use goats so that everyone can understand. So that let's use goats so that I'm not going to use something now. Someone will say that is this still the same thing? So let me use goats and we have this. So I just do const balance equals, that's goat. What function, what array method are we going to use if we want to calculate in JavaScript? What array function are we going to use? What array method are we
Reduce or reduce.
Reduce or what? Paul, you wanted to say something else. Reduce or what?
No, come on. I wanted to fuck up.
You wanted to fuck up. No, it's
But,
allowed. There's no
but
funny
what I
enough,
had
yeah, I'm listening to you.
what I had in mind before, if not for the fact that you have taught reduce, is that I will use sum, use my normal sum.
Yeah.
Seriously,
So,
I wanted to use mad or strong. Then instead of that, this now minus.
yeah, it's fine actually. So that for you to be able to calculate once, that's going to take you through a longer process. So let's just calculate it. So reduce. We have can someone tell me if you understand reduce? Can you tell me how we are going to write the function?
So I will put accumulator and current as my variables.
Current, okay, nice.
And I will now do the
Come here. Let me. You now have to put this in parentheses. Accu and current. So we have array function. We have what?
Then I will now do accumulator plus current at every instance.
Huh?
No, plus, I think I'm missing it now. Accumulator, no, it will be accumulated plus equal to current. Something like that.
No, there's no, you just use a plus.
Okay, just plus.
I don't
Okay.
understand.
Missing it. Okay.
Dami, what are you saying?
I don't understand this accumulator reduce.
You don't understand the accumulator. It's still the same reduce that we did in the last class now. The accumulator can actually be anything. It can be goats. It can be Ronaldo. If you like, come for my head. I'll chase you out of my class if you tell me Messi is the goat.
Please don't use goat again. Use any other thing. So, there's another goat there.
Okay, what should I use? Josephine, just give me something I should use.
Sheep. Or total. Or total.
Okay, total. Total. No. Total. Then what should be the next one?
Merci.
Current value. Something that is descriptive of what we are doing now. Current value.
Okay, I'm coming. Current value.
Yeah, that's explanatory.
Current value. So now we have this. The next thing we are going to do is we would have, oh yeah, explain now, continue.
Total plus current value. Then you are starting from 0. That was what you explained last time.
Yes, that's what I explained in the last class. You now have total plus current value.
Yes. Then you now start from 0.
Current value, comma 0, right?
Yes.
So then what do we have to do? We now have to we have to render it on our screen, right? We now have, where is that part on our screen? Let's see. Let's check our HTML. Let's check our HTML structure and see where we have it on the screen. That is balance. That's balance value, right? So let's check what we have right here. We have balance value, label balance. Okay, so let's copy this and come right here. You can see that we are still going to make use of our text content, because here we are just writing only a text. We are not writing an HTML structure. The text content equals, now I want to use a template literal because I want to put a sign in front of it. Balance Naira. So it should be like this. We use our N, capital letter N, as the Naira symbol, so we can all understand. So let's check. Let's now console.log let's now render it on our screen and see. So we have calculate balance dot account. Which account are we making use of? Account 5 dot, is it account 5 dot transaction, the transaction. So let's check it out. Let's check what we have. So is it correct? Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. There is no Naira sign. There is just N.
This money
There's
too
no
small
Naira
now.
sign. What did you say?
The
Money too
Naira
small.
sign is N.
I'm trying to get the Naira sign from Google.
Yeah,
But can someone check the Naira sign on Google and paste it on in the chat box so that I can?
Is the HTML entity for Naira?
It's supposed to be Naira sign is supposed to be shift 4 or 3.
Shift 4 or 3. I don't know I can't remember the HTML attributes. That's what I'm trying to make use of Google's own. So we just use the normal symbol. So if you can just check Google, just paste it in the chat box so I can actually.
So have you tried shift 4 or
shift 4? Shift 4. Shift 4 is dollar. Shift 3 is hash. This is not the Naira symbol.
I think it's an hash 8358.
We
Can
just
you
do
just
it
paste
now.
it? No, that's not okay. Someone has pasted it in the chat box, so I'm just going to copy it. So we just have this. So
okay.
That's what we have. So let's check it out. Let's check it out and see. We have our Naira symbol right here. So let me also put it right in our good transaction here. So you know that we have it here also.
Sorry, sir. Was it the shift stuff you used or used something else?
Which stuff? No, I used another one. Someone pasted that for me in the chat box, which I just copied and pasted right here. So, do you understand how I calculated the balance?
Yes, I did. But sir, please, can I see account 5 the object, account 5 object. Account 5 object.
This is account 5 object here.
Okay, I see. It's fine. I understand. You change the movement to transactions. Okay.
Yes, I changed the movement to transaction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So are we good? Do we understand? Is there any
Can you go up a bit?
okay?
Okay.
So this is it.
It's the balance we wanted to work out. Okay.
Yeah, this is the balance. You have worked on the balance
That's
already.
how we use the text content.
Yeah, that's why we use the text content, because that's just a text. It's not. So do you
Okay.
understand?
So I don't know if you can do this for me, please. Though I think I've gone through it. I've gone through it once, but I still didn't get it. This the total addition of a thing.
Total addition.
Yeah,
Uh,
the yes.
this is the balance. That's you are trying to create a total balance for everything. So now the first thing you have to do is um your array method. You are going to use a reduce for it. When you make use of a reduce, the next thing you have to do is a reduce takes in two values, the accumulator and the current value. That is, if you come right here to the transaction, the current value, that's why we started at 0. You know, it's an array of objects. So the first thing there is going to be 0. So that is why we have 0. So 0, if we start at 0, 0 plus 1, that means
Okay.
the initial value that is going to add is
Yeah.
JavaScript is going to do that behind the scene. It's going to be 0 plus 0. That's 0. 0 plus 1. That 1 is 430. That is
Okay.
430 plus 1000. That is 1430. 1430 plus 700. 1000.
1,001.
So you just keep doing the addition like that till it gets to the last one. And by the time it gets to the last one, it has already calculated everything. So you just,
Okay.
that's where the balance, that's where it goes in. So that this current value, by the time it accumulates the first one, that is 0 plus 3, 0 plus 1 is 0.
Yeah.
1 plus 430, that's 430 plus 1000.
1,000.
That's total. Then 1430 plus 700, which is going to be the total. Then the next value, the current value is now going to be 50. By the time it adds that up, that is the total plus the current value. That is why we have this addition right here. That is why it keeps going like that and like that till it gets to the
I get
last
you.
one. You
I
understand it,
understand.
Fela?
Yes, I understand now. Yes, I
Okay.
understand it.
So
So
Sorry,
this
sir.
regular
just
balance of text content is to like to
to display it, to
add
just display
something
it on the
down.
screen.
Yeah.
So it's just for us to display it on the screen. That is why we have um, text content there.
Sir,
So
sorry, that equals to which equals to that's not look like arrow equals to an greater than.
share right here. This is not a greater
Yes,
than.
sir.
Where were you? Who is saying greater than? Hilary, is that you?
Yeah, I'm asking like that arrow. What's the name? What's it called?
Who asked? Who said that is an arrow? Who said that is an arrow greater? Is Hilary? Is that you?
Yes, I'm asking what is it called. I'm just trying to explain what I'm seeing. I did not say it's greater than.
That's an arrow function. I made mention of this in JavaScript early when we were doing introduction to JavaScript. That is an arrow function, not an equals greater than sign. That is an arrow function.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sorry,
Yesira.
sir. That's so.
Yes, sir. While you were explaining this zero, you said in JavaScript it would be like 430, 0 plus 430, Abby.
Yes.
So I thought before there was a class you had with us. You said that 430 carries the 0, then the next one is 1, the next one is 2, The next one is 3.
Okay. So the thing is, when you are trying to use a reduce function, your start point is going to be 0, right?
Yes, yes.
The start point is going to be 0. So by the time you do 430, does anyone have a calculator there? So let's quickly run the mathematics. Does anyone have a
Yes,
calculator?
sir. I understand the mathematics. I just want to understand the
Sure.
statement.
Okay.
You said it would be 0 plus
0
430.
plus 430, which is the
Yes.
starting point.
Okay.
Which
No,
is going to give you
why are you putting 0? It should be 430, which is our 0.
we can't put 430 there because
Okay.
we need to start from, let's put 2 here. I'm coming. Let's put 3 here and let's see our result. Let's see what we have. You can see we have 4. We have the 3 right here. The 3 that we did right here, that is 3 plus 4. 433 plus 1000 is going to give you 1433. Yes, Sirat, are you understanding?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So 1433 plus 700, what is it going to give you? So the 0 you're having here is what is going to be added to your initial value. I think I get where you're coming from now. I think I mixed it up
Okay,
somewhere.
yeah, I understand it now.
I mixed it up somewhere. Yeah, I'm so sorry about the mix-up. So
Okay.
yeah, Paul, your hand is raised. Are you clear now, Yesirat?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I
I'm
wanted to
clear now.
okay. My question is, the total and the current value. You've not it's not like you define it in our HTML or is it a class? It's just like you just define it as a parameter, right?
Yes, that's a parameter.
So you can use anything there.
I can use anything there. I can change
Alright.
this to ruler. I can change this to pencil.
Okay.
Total.
So the essence of this is just for it to be called in this string that you wrote here, since there is already
Yes.
a okay.
Yes, because a reduced function takes in 2 parameters, and the 2 parameters that it takes in are, that is the accumulator, as what Josephine said, the accumulator and the current value. So that is what we passed into it.
Okay.
So that is what we just did right there. So does anyone have any other question? Does anyone have any other question?
Sir, sorry, can I see where the goat was gotten from? Just scroll down a bit. Sorry, sir. Just confirm something. No,
Hilary,
like up.
Hilary, you
Yes,
did
sir.
this twice in this class. You asked the question, I was answering your question, and you dropped off the call. You did it first time. You asked the question the second time. I was answering your question, and you dropped off this call. Yes or no?
Sir, I'm sorry. It's network. It's not from my. It's not. I didn't do it on purpose.
But now you're asking me to go back to that question again for me to go and answer it. Kindly go to the YouTube video and go and watch it. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Ivy, please go ahead. Oh, Genevieve, go ahead.
Sorry, sir. I wanted to ask concerning the 0 too, but it has been answered. So I want to understand that this, if you want to calculate the total, like the total balance, we just need to put the account and remove this account.
That's what I did right here now. I just did account calculate balance. I did account 5.transaction.
So what I meant is that if you want to calculate the total of like all the accounts, you just pass the account.
You just have to pass the account into it. But you know that if you can't calculate all your accounts because account is not the one carrying this thing. It's not the one carrying the transaction actually. Because if a user is logged in, it's only for that particular user that is going to do what? That is going to carry out the that is going to render their value. So that is why I'm just targeting account 5, because at this point we made use of account 5, and to calculate the value also we have to just make use of account 5 so that we understand what we are working with. So do you understand?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Yeah, so does anyone have any other question?
Yes, I do.
All right, ID, please go ahead.
Yeah, good day once again. Please, mine is just a quick appeal. I was a few minutes late into the class, so I'm appealing if it's possible for the video to be posted earlier or quicker so that I could just have a quick look at it. But that's all. That's all.
I think the reason is actually network issues. That's why the video does not go up in time. So the person in charge of uploading the video rather has to wait till late in the night, so that he doesn't have to start uploading it during the day and there's a network issue, and he goes back to start uploading it all over and over again. So that's just it. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So, Yesirat, your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm just curious. So now, if we have like 5 accounts, so if we want to do it for all the 5 accounts, is it possible?
If you want to do it on the 5 accounts, in your bank application, even if you have 2 accounts in a particular bank, you can't see your total balance for both accounts in one place. You have to go from one particular account to another to be able to
Access
see.
does that. Access
I use
Bank.
Access.
If you have, if you have 2 accounts, there's a place accounts for access. They have the account numbers. You can actually click that place. You see it for all your accounts, your account balance.
Well, I use Access, but I'm not.
I'm using Access too.
I have to swipe to the next account.
But that's a summary now. That is account summary now. It's not like is calculating 2 together. It's just each of the account summaries. You can't see them join your account 1, account 2 balance together now.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's not possible now.
You didn't get me. If you want the 2 accounts to show, like to show on your screen, but you want it to show on the screen, the 2 accounts to show on the screen, but not that they are calculating it together. You just want it to show. Can you do that?
Yes, we can't actually do that actually, because they are for 2 separate accounts. And by the time a user logs in, they have to be what? They have to be account for user A. User A is going to log in and see his own balance. User B is going to log in and see his own balance. So that's
all right.
it. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what she's saying, it's just like having a sub account with, let's say, someone having a single account, then having 2 sub accounts.
A sub account.
So it seems
If
that's
there's
what
a sub account, we can actually do that. We just create sub transaction. We just do something like this. We just do sub transaction. Just do sub transaction, and we have this. So by the time you want to do this, you just do where is it? So let's see what we have. Why are we having 000? What's going on? Go to dot reduce is not a function on account balance. Oh. I don't think it can work because reduce is just taking one parameter. I don't think it can work because reduce is just taking.
No, we don't have to add them together. She only wants them to display beside each other. That is account 1, account 2 for that particular user.
She wants it to display side by side. Yes,
Okay,
it's
let's
just
say
the same thing she's going to do.
Yeah,
She
that's
do
what I'm
this.
saying. That I have two accounts. Then I have different balance for the two accounts. Can I display them together just like the way I said that Access used to do?
Yes, balance 2. Let's do this. Balance 2. That is chart. That is chart. And we have so now we have to go to our HTML structure and add balance 2 to it. So we have to do this. So let's check our HTML structure and see. So we have this already. So balance 2. Let's see what we have. We have this already. So we just do this. Let's label balance. Balance 2. And we will come right here and do balance 2. Is it label balance 2? Okay, label balance 2. That's balance 2. So let's check what we have. Go to the chart.
So will you not put reduce in that place? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I did go to the chart instead of go to the reduce.
Put the
Sorry,
chat.
go to the chart. So we now have I'm doing something wrong. That's chart. So let's check what we have right now. So you can see.
Wow.
Did I get you right? I think it's correct.
Yes, sir, he's right.
Okay, so that is how we do it. So yeah, that's just it. Curiosity is just about, it's just it. So yeah, thank you very much for today's class. Do enjoy the rest of your day.